Probably spent the time to suggest that you can go on. That's why I didn't want to really easy.
Good evening and welcome. My name is Shelley Stein and I serve as the chair of the Genesee County Legislature. And if you can't hear me, I'm going to pull on your ears because I'm pretty good at using my barn voice here. I'd like to welcome you all to the kickoff meeting of our Genesee County Police Review and Reinvention Collaborative. Together, we have the incredible task ahead of us. Together, we have an incredible responsibility to everyone and to each other who reside in Genesee County. Together, we have an incredible opportunity to learn from each other and about our personal experiences. Together, we have an incredible opportunity to improve our public safety and the way that we manage our public safety for all citizens of Genesee County through our thoughtful, respectful, and robust discussion. We have to get to know each other and our shared purpose and how we see each other as we discuss public safety and its delivery here in Genesee County. And step by step by step, we will do this together. We will be a better group if we listen twice and speak once. This is open to our entire community, and so the fact that you have been tasked to represent a social group or a minority group or even just being a leader that's been elected. We need each and every one of you as we step off to this plan to ensure that we are meeting our governor's directive, which is very simply put that each community must envision for itself the appropriate role of the police. Policies must be developed to allow the police to do their jobs to protect the public, and the policy must meet with the local community's acceptance. So our job is big. Our hearts have to be part of what we do today. And there is no doubt that we need to be vulnerable to each other. We need to build trust and most of all, respect of each other. So thank you, welcome. I'm glad that we're here together. And with this, I'd like to introduce our moderator, Robert Bouch, who is our retired legislative chair. Mr. Bouch.
Thank you. As Shelley just mentioned, I was a county legislator for 10 years. I was chair for the last 2 years. So I'm going to kind of kick this whole thing off. We'll go around the room and also on Zoom. So when we are doing that, please reflect on point number 5 on your agenda today. Because if you feel or identify an area group, whatever, that's not represented, that you feel should be represented, we can talk about that at the end. So that's one of the reasons that it's the last thing. So when you introduce yourself, you listen to the other people. We want to try to identify where we have potential vacancy or an opening which should be filled. Okay? So with that, I will start off by about, like I just said, I've done the legislature for 10 years, county chair for the last 2. I live in the village of Virgin. We have 5 grown children, so it's just my wife and me out there now. I was originally from the city of Batavia, grew up in Batavia, eventually ended up in Virgin. Professionally, I was in business, primarily health insurance, business consulting, did a lot of business consulting, and professional practice management with various groups, MDs as well as veterinarians. So it's kind of my background, and with that, I'll come in.
Sure. Hi, my name is Matt Landers. I'm the county manager for about the last 6 or 7 weeks. I was the assistant county manager before that and worked with the treasurer's office. I'm a lifelong Genesee County resident. Graduated from Elba and now reside in the city of Batavia. I look forward to serving on this committee. I think that I think it's good to listen to other perspectives. I certainly have had positive interactions with law enforcement, but I know that my perspective is not the only one. I will say that I had the opportunity when there was the protest here in Batavia and to listen in and watch some of the protests and listen to some of the stories and some of the arguments. It is eye-opening, and it is easy to see how we are comfortable in our own worlds, and I understand why this committee is put together, and I look forward to listening to perspectives and to working with an already biased but a very good sheriff's office, and I'm happy that the sheriff's here and know that he is the kind of person that is willing to listen, and so I look forward to the process. I'm not one of those that is looking at this as something unnecessary that we have to do. I'm looking at this as an opportunity to learn and for our community to learn, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you. Jerry? My name is Jerry Yeager. I'm the public defender in this county, and I've been a public defender since 2004, and assistant public defender in this county and in Wyoming County for about 31 years. I also look forward to the discussion. I'm hoping that we all learn something and we're all open to some change, that nobody's perfect. And so I'm glad we're all here, and I look forward to our discussions. Thank you. Thank you.
I'm Greg Post. I'm the supervisor of the town of Batavia. Lived in Batavia most of my life. I've been working in the public sector between the city and the town since 1974. My wife and I have also started and owned and built a business that we started in 1983. I have a public eye perspective and a private business perspective. Our work involves mostly fixing water and sewer lines. We've been in probably 30% of the houses in the region. I was blessed to meet my wife 20 years ago, and prior to us being married, she spent 30 years of her adult life in Africa, the Middle East, Asia, and Southeast Asia, in the Peace Corps, working for the State Department. So she brings a global perspective to a lot of the situations that we see, and I have been asked to serve, and I feel honored for the opportunity to listen and to be part of the solution. Thank you.
Barbie Starowitz. There, I'll leave it there. My name is Barbie Starowitz. I grew up in Elba. I am one of 7 children. My father was Leo Starowitz. My mother's Dolores Starowitz. Went to Byron Virgin High School. I am still presently on the farm. I work for my 4 brothers. I am a member of the Elba Fire Department. I joined in 1983. I am a current basic EMT. I work on the farm with many different diverse employees that are Mexican, Guatemalan, and the minorities. So I can bring some insight of what they would feel of how they've been treated and what their perspectives of the police department. I currently still do work on the farm full-time, but also volunteer. I was chairman of the Elba Onion Fest for 23 years. And so hopefully we'll be having it again next year. And it is an honor to be asked to serve. I want to say thank you.
My name is John Keller. I'm one of the pastors at Northgate, from Bank Street Road, just south of the Thruway. Been there for almost 10 years, which has been great. That's been my exposure to Genesee County in that time. I grew up in Wyoming County, as I was saying to Barbie earlier. So from this area for most of my life, and I served on the advisory board for the Salvation Army and the Bridge Recovery House. A couple of ways have been connected here. So like you guys said, I'm looking forward to learning. It's a good learning process, and I'm really honored to be asked. I was honored when I got the call from Under Sheriff Mazur, so I'm looking forward to this process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheriff? I'm Bill Sheridan, I'm Sheriff of Genesee County, I've been in the Sheriff's Office a long time, 43 years. I grew up in the city of Batavia, went to all Catholic schools. I was a damer. That's okay, right? Good goal, but, anyways, I welcome the opportunity to get feedback. We can always improve on what we do. We don't do things perfect. Any input that we can get that we can make a better situation for the citizens, I'm all for it. So I will look forward to listening to comments. I always call it constructive criticism. When I started in police work, I was taught that if you can't take constructive criticism, get out, because that's what it's all about. That's how you get change. You know, you listen to each other and you formulate a plan and move on with it. So I'm pleased to be here and look forward to our end product. Thanks.
My name is Linda Battaglia. I'm the Director of Mental Health and Community Services for Genesee County. I've been in this position for 1 year. Prior to that, I was the forensic chief at Adequate Correctional Facility. I was responsible for ensuring that inmates within the correctional facility received mental health treatment that they were entitled to and that they were in clinical need of. I was there for 6 years. I'm an adjunct professor at the University of Buffalo in the graduate level program for social work. I teach forensic social work and of course on understanding suicide. I'm hoping that I can bring my expertise in mental health and criminal justice and forensics into the meetings. I've always worked with law enforcement. My background is emergency mental health. I would do mobile response outreach with police in Buffalo, and so I'm excited for this. I think anytime you can make change and improve collectively as a group, then I think we're just moving forward. So whatever I can add to this, I will certainly add, and have to do whatever I can do.
My name is Julie Harrison. I live in Stafford. I did not grow up in Genesee County. I grew up all over the world. My dad was in the military for 32 years, but he grew up in Corfu. He's a Corfu native, and my mom's an Albion native, so they both grew up in this area. We've always considered this our home. My background has a cultural competence and health literacy operations specialist, and I work with many agencies in this area to become more culturally competent and health literate. And I do that by working with their strategic plans and work plans, and also doing a lot of trainings. I'm a certified trainer. I do implicit biases, I do cultural competence, I do health literacy. I'm also a Restore Sexual Assault Services advocate. So I'm also a crisis counselor. So if somebody needs our services, I'm there for them as well. So I'm very honored that Matt asked me to be on this committee, and I hope to bring my expertise in training and everything to the committee. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Koresh Jenkins. I currently live in Alexandria, New York. I was born and raised in Mobile, Alabama. Moved to New York in 1989. My wife is from Alexandria. I went to Bus State, 4 years, got my degree. I work at the Blind School here in Batavia. I've been there for 12 years, 10 years current. And like I said, we live out in Alexandria. I lived in Batavia for 4 years before we bought a house in Alexandria. Everyone and myself, we were asked by Andy Young, who's a friend of the family, if we would participate. Why not? You know, this is our community. We're going to be here. I have lots of children. I have 6 kids. My oldest is 27. My youngest is 8. I don't know, not just turned 9. But I look forward to, you know, giving you guys some insight. Like I said, I moved up in Alabama, so moving up from Alabama to upstate New York was a culture shock. So big city, small city. I love the small towns as well. I'm here and I don't stay here. And I look forward to answering any questions or giving my input on anything in there.
Carl Woods, I live out in Bethany. I'm originally from Alba. I've been around Jesse County my whole life. Construction worker / I also flip houses. I do real property. I've been in the community a long time. I've coached a lot of kids. I've been coaching for 15 years at least. So I'm just here. I'm glad that they asked that. I like to help. Anything I can do to help, to show that any ideas of making things better. You know, I just think if we do it as a group, I think it can be done. You know, we have to do it together. And like what Andy asked, we gotta be here to figure out. If we're not here, we can't help. So, please ask.
We have a few people on Zoom. Larry, could you introduce yourself, please?
Yes, Larry Friedman. I'm the District Attorney of Genesee County. I've been with the office for nearly 39 years and lived in the city and town of Batavia for that period of time. Raised my daughters here. They went through the Batavia School District. Jerry Ader and I were law school classmates. If anyone would like to see the photos that we submitted with our applications 43 years ago, I'd be glad to share them. I've been the district attorney for 24 years and was an assistant DA for 15 years before that. And so of course, I've worked closely with the Genesee County Sheriff's Office my whole career and with the Public Defender's Office, Jerry Ader. And I'm looking forward to working with all of you on this.
Thank you, Rich. Howard Carlson.
Oh, I'm Howard Carlson. I've been with the Sheriff's Office for 15 years. Not originally from here. I grew up in Chautauqua County and then moved here. I've been on the road patrol for 11 years, and then I went into investigations for the last 3 years. I'm also the president of the Deputy Sheriff's Association, representing about 45 members. Looking forward to hearing how other people view our profession and what we can do to make the necessary changes.
Thank you. I'd just like to mention, this is being recorded by Steve Goodman, head of the IT department in the county, and so all this is being recorded as we go along. At this time, I've asked the county manager to discuss and explain Executive Order 203.
All right, so I stood this out. Hamel Drew, who sent out the original packet, sent out what the executive order was. And in order for us to move forward, I think we I just want to make sure that we are understanding of what the governor's executive order really is. So I probably read this a bunch of times, but I still am going to refer to it here at the expense of hopefully not boring you. But what I want to do is kind of break it down a little bit to make sure that we understand it. I like to speak in layman terms for my own purposes. You know, there's a saying that our county attorney has coined, he likes to get very wordy, as attorneys do, and he calls it landerizing it, where I've been able to take long, lengthy stuff and boil it down so that 99% of the rest of the population understand what we're talking about. So in general, I'm gonna again, at the expense of boring you, it's worthwhile to take the time to kind of go over the executive order, and then I actually wrote notes down on what we're doing, why we're doing it. And this is straight from the actual executive order from the governor. I'm not gonna read some of the first there are fours, but basically each local government entity which has a police agency operating with police officers as defined under 1.20 of the criminal procedure law must perform a comprehensive review of current police force deployments, strategies, policies, procedures, and practices, and develop a plan to improve such deployments, strategies, policies, procedures, and practices for the purposes of addressing the particular needs of the community served by such police agency, and to promote community engagement to foster truth, trust, fairness, and legitimacy, and to address any racial bias and disproportionate policing of communities of color. So basically, the county must do a comprehensive review of the sheriff's office policies, procedures, and develop a plan to fix identified issues. The next section, each chief executive of such local government shall convene the head of the local police agency and stakeholders in the community to develop such a plan, which shall consider evidence-based policing strategies, including but not limited to use of force policies, procedural justice, any studies addressing systematic racial bias or racial justice in policing, implicit bias awareness training, de-escalation training and practices, law enforcement assisted diversion programs, restorative justice practices, community-based outreach, and conflict resolution, problem-oriented policing, hotspot policing, focused deterrence, crime prevention to environmental design, violence prevention and reduction interventions, model policies and guidelines promulgated by the New York State Municipal Police Training Council, and standards promulgated by the New York State Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. So basically, the chair of our legislature, Shelley Stein, must work with both the county sheriff and members of this committee to develop a plan. The committee must consider 15 different items in developing the plan. Those were some of the items I talked about: the hotspot policing, focused deterrence. Those are, I counted, there's 15 of those, and we have to consider all 15 of those in our plan. And I have those broken out into our timeline that we'll be discussing shortly. Next part of the executive order. The political subdivision, in coordination with its police agency, must consult with stakeholders, including but not limited to membership and leadership of the local police force, members of the community, with emphasis in areas with high numbers of police and community interactions, interested nonprofit faith-based community groups, the local office of the district attorney, the local public defender, and local elected officials, and create a plan to adopt and implement the recommendations resulting from its review and consultation, including any modifications, modernizations, and innovations to its policing deployments, strategies, policies, procedures, and practices tailored to the specific needs of the community and general promotion of improved police agency and community relationship based on trust, fairness, accountability, and transparency, and which seek to reduce any racial disparities in policing. Basically, the plan must be offered for public comments and then modified. Back it up, I messed up my own paragraph. The committee must be made up of members of the sheriff's office, members of the community, representatives from local nonprofits and faith-based organizations, representatives from the district attorney's office, representatives from the public defender's office, and local elected officials. The committee must create a plan based on the recommendations resulting from its detailed review of the policies and procedures. Just a couple more. Such plan shall be offered for public comments to all citizens in the locality, and after consideration, such comments shall be presented to the local legislative body in such political subdivision, which shall ratify or adopt such plan by local law or resolution as appropriate, no later than April 1st of 2021. So basically, the plan must be offered for public comments and then modified if it needs to be based on the feedback from the public comments. The plan will be provided to the legislature for their adoption through a resolution no later than April 1st, 2021. back to the actual executive order. Such local government shall transmit a certification to the director of the division of the budget to affirm that such process has been complied with and such local law or resolution has been adopted. So the certification has to be sent to the state that the resolution was adopted by the legislature. The director of division of the budget shall be authorized to conduct receipt of future appropriated state or federal funds upon filing such certification for which local government would otherwise be eligible. If the state doesn't receive the certification, they have the right to withhold state aid from the town. So it's an extra little bad or territory that the county complies with. So again, we submitted this in the packet. This is the local law directly from the governor. It's there for your review. With anything that's got some legalese, I will take a few times to read it over and let us sink in. I took the time to kind of boil it down and generalize it so that the way I understand it, by no means, some people can read it a little bit differently, but I think for the most part, that's kind of capturing the essence of what the local law is indicating that we have to comply with, and we have a timeline, a plan to comply with everything in this local law.
Another member of the committee just walked in. Would you like to introduce yourself with the background?
Yes, sorry. Sorry. Hi, my name is Rachel. I'm from Genesee Community College. I'm originally from the Caribbean, so I'm an international student. It's nice meeting everyone. I'm sorry I'm late.
Yeah, so basically we have, I left this on your desk, on your table, everyone should have it. This is not set in stone. This was with the time we have between now back into April 1st of 2021. As I said, the executive order is clear that by the 1st of April, the state has to have that information in their hands. So obviously we can't pass a resolution on the 1st. The legislature needs time to consider. So the timeline that I have put before us is utilizing 2 meetings a month is the proposal. Every other Monday for the months of November, December, January. And so we propose, I'll back up. Today's October 14th. October 28th is when there's a planned report or presentation, I should say, by the sheriff. Before then, there will be some additional information the sheriff's office provides to the committee, so we'll have time to review it in anticipation of the first meeting that we will get into, which is November 2nd. So again, October 28th will be some level of presentation the sheriff is working on now to kind of go over in a higher level form of what the current policies, procedures, deployment strategies, and everything else the sheriff's office currently utilizes. Then starting on November 2nd, which is Monday, and then every other Monday, essentially, we're going to break out some of those 15 items that are listed in the executive order. So there's 15 areas that the executive order suggests we cover, tells us we must cover. So I broke it up into basically 3 a meeting. If we don't cover everything, we can always save some for the next. And again, this is kind of organic. This is something that we can go through. But one thing that's not organic is April 1st is the time that we have to have this in the hands of the state. And then there's some meetings before that we have to make sure we back into. So November 2nd, November 16th are Mondays, November 10th, December 7th, December 21st, and January 4th. At that point, I propose that we would have our moderator, Bausch, who is volunteered to gather the data for us and put together a report based on our recommendations, based on the meeting minutes, based on everything that we feel is pertinent to put in this report. And then there'd be at the January 18th meeting, basically a review of the draft report, discuss other suggested changes, things that we want to add into it. It's a requirement that we have the draft put out for public comment. So we would utilize, at the very least, the February 1st as an opportunity to present the report to the public. Again, this is an organic timeline. If there's a need for more or less or changing around, I'm just putting this out there as a proposal. So we would take into consideration the feedback from that public meeting or public meetings, and then Bob would take that information based on the recommendations of our committee if we want to use it or not, and then provide a updated report for February 15th for us to review, and then as a group accept the report. I I put down March 3rd as a county Ways and Means meeting. It makes the most sense for us to consider, the legislature to consider the reports and adopt it to a resolution. And then March 10th is the full county legislature that they would adopt this. There is a second meeting in March, but in the interest of time, and I would recommend not waiting till the last minute. This does give a little bit of flexibility, so if for any reason, if there's a compelling reason that we need to push this back, that we could go to the second meeting in March. So I like having this flexibility in here. In addition, there's always a possibility of having a special meeting if necessary. But we want to try to leave ourselves as much time. I'm not recommending at this point that we do this with a local law. It requires extra meetings. And it just, in my opinion, slows down the process. Resolution. For us, we're adopting a recommendation. That's what we're doing. We're adopting recommendations to provide the sheriff's office for them to implement their policies and procedures. It doesn't carry any additional weight to adopt a local law versus a resolution, except there's more steps, it's more bureaucratic. So I would rather spend the time on talking than having extra meetings for the legislature to conduct extra public hearings. So I'm recommending a resolution, and I recommend the resolution pass in our 10th meeting, which gives plenty of time for us to file the resolution to this division of the budget by April 1st.
Any questions, discussion on that? We have the timeline in front of you, which matches over. Is there any further on that timeline? I think it's good that we have the extra session that is in March. Hopefully we'll have to use it. Give us no storm or something else, and we don't get out. At least we got some flexibility.
But we also can use the Zoom technology if we can't get out, and if there is an unfortunate shutdown due to COVID, this is one way that we can continue to do our work as long as everyone has adequate internet that is available to them.
That should be the last thing on the agenda this evening. Is there any identifiable areas we should, the committee should discuss about adding somebody to the committee? With either our expertise, background, ratio, or whatever. Any thought, and not necessarily name, I'm just thinking whether there's a group.
Could I add that we do have some absences tonight?
Yes, okay.
And one, let me find that list. Tonight, not yet joining us is John Bennett, who represents Genesee County Association on Substance and Alcohol Abuse. Also, Leandro Mateos, who is an employee, a farm. Millie County, who represents the YWCA and domestic violence. And Rachel, you joined us. So those are the groups that we are missing being represented here yet.
Her name is Brad Mason.
We did talk about the reservation providing us with a representative.
We did, we have reached out, and we expressed interest. We advised them probably want to every week. He did continue to say he was interested, and we will have it back in.
Can any of the committee members reach out to people, and if we find someone who's interested, contact Vouch and ask if they would be willing to be invited? And I'm not sure how it works. I mean, if I know somebody on the reservation who does want to join, how do I present that to the
areas that's why we have this part on the committee here, or on the agenda. We have a committee of 19, and this would make number 20. There isn't a cap, so I don't want to, I'm not leading out by saying, that I just want to make sure that we do know there's definitely put thought into having a healthy committee. One of the thoughts was, initially, I'll admit, when I first started this, I was thinking, oh, sure, we'll have a committee of 12 or 13, and it started growing, and at first I was thinking, is that good? And then realizing that in Zoom, people's lives, we're never going to get 20 plus people here anyway. And then the addition that having an extra perspective, we're all professional. I think, to make sure that we're covering areas, covering all our areas, then there is no cap that I have in my mind. Certainly, I would just ask that if we want to have more people, that we would express or say, what additional areas are we going to get for coverage? And that's one of the questions here. It doesn't have to be answered right here. It's something that, now that most of us have come here and we see who's here, we might think about it later on as an area of a perspective or an opinion set that isn't being covered that we would like to include. And certainly, please reach out to myself or to Bill or to Shelley, any one of us. I think that if we're missing an area, we're going to want to have that area covered. I wouldn't want 25 new people to volunteer to a 45-person committee just for the sake of having them. But if there's a perspective that we want to include, by all means. And then there's also going to be opportunities, if they're not on the committee, there's going to be opportunities in the future to bring people in for their perspective for certain sections. I envision there's going to be areas on these 15 items that we want to cover, potentially on if there's something to do with any more with academia or anything like that. Maybe you want somebody from the community college, or maybe we want somebody in addition. So there may be another city doing this. They have some subgroups, they have specialized people. So that's another opportunity. So if we have somebody that had a great perspective pertaining to something real specific, maybe we'd invite that person to come in and present and speak to us as well. So long-winded answer. Yeah, that's my suggestions. By all means, I use the word organic, and it's true that we can modify this as a group as we see fit.
Correct me if I'm wrong. They're not representatives here from the city of Davis, those of zero, because they have their own business. Correct.
We weren't specifically seeking out some item that's indicated. So we weren't seeking out perspectives, and we were seeking more on the outside because there's a city meeting right now. The same exact format, but it's dealing with the city police. We wanted to be sure that we were touching more heavily on the towns outside of the city, if at all possible, for that sole purpose. In the village of Leroy, or in the Leroy Police Department, they have their own committee that they're doing one of these likewise. So I would just assume that some people in Leroy, if they wanted to serve, on the force that was more impactful to their community at large. So yes, so we were targeting a little bit more around the city a little bit. If somebody happens to live in the city, Bill lives in the city, but he can't get out of this, he's the sheriff, so tonight. So yes. Yes.
Being from one of the towns, somebody in our town told me when it's a coin toss whether the sheriff or state police officer or state police representatives going to be available during this.
The state police are not required to apply with this.
No, but
No, I'm sure if we wanted their perspective, I'm sure.
maybe at some point it may be helpful because it was helpful in Dr. Moore's Crime Task Force initiative that we attended through the year, and there was a willingness, at least it seemed, for them to bring a perspective to both city and town problems.
I have no question, sir. Will the public be able to ask questions at some point through either Zoom or in person? Do they have any? Can I have input? So somebody would know what's in the chat box and then it could be discussed. The one behind the screen. Okay. I just wasn't sure that if people knew that they could certainly ask questions.
So we've been gracious enough to have IT as streaming it, I would hope at some point maybe Tegan or somebody else will stream these. We are taping this, this meeting, and we do send out the press release Zoom links. So if people wanted to, I mean, there is a limit of 100, but, and I don't know if that would be hit or not, but people could certainly Zoom in and watch, and we can make sure that there's not too much confusion and we mute them. But there is the opportunity, if they're zooming in the chat, there's also the ability to come in person as well. So we have enough seating for a handful of people. We're not going to get to the point that we would ask them to too full, but we're looking for ways to improve, and anything that we can, any suggestions on how to make that better with COVID, with an older building, there's challenges we face, but please let me know if people are getting to us and they want to, we'll think harder on how to make that happen.
Just quickly, if you read through the executive order and that they end up there, it says model policies and guidelines promulgated by the New York State Municipal Police Training Council and standards promulgated by the New York State Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. The Sheriff's Office is an accredited agency. We just received our recertification 2 or 3 weeks ago. To keep things moving, what I wanted was you can expect in your emails is I do have our general orders that I'm pulling out that are specific to the issues that need to be addressed. There's other areas that have to create general orders on, but I will be getting these to everybody in email so you can read through them and be ready to discuss them. Okay. Any other comments?
I just have a real quick one. I'm not positive. According to this letter, it says same place and same time at 7. And then according to the time schedule, it says 6:30.
Yes,
So,
I moved that to 6:30.
okay,
I will.
so we'll be here next time, 6:30 then.
Because they will be following our committee meetings, which start earlier, and there's no reason to go as late as 7, but this was because it was a legislature meeting. So I figured 6:30 would be adequate. But again, I'm one person quoting these. If you want to keep them at 7, and there's a vote, because of strong consensus, I would recommend we go back to 6:30, and I apologize for the confusion.
That's okay, thank you.
Barbara, we want to have to bake some cookies or something to bring along.
I usually have chocolate lined up.
Chocolate good. We have back to that. Chocolate good.
Thank you, Barbara.
If a committee member wants to submit some material for the committee to review, who would they submit it to for uniform?
And then I'll push it all out to the committee. And one thing also that we didn't, it was part of the package, it was the 100 and something page police reform and reinvention collaboration. It's a long read, but definitely take a look at that. It goes through the timeline, gets it very in-depth over some of the 15 areas that we're going to be, that the sheriff's going to be touching on and covering, and it gives a good basis for us to use it for future meetings. So that's also part of the homework between the information that the sheriff will be sending out, along with the guidelines from the state that's dated August of 2020. Some good information to get up to date and to speed. By all means, if questions pop up or ideas pop up, suggestions on any kind of changes, this is, I used it several times. It's an organic setup framework that we can change as needed, and I'm used to it. 2020 has been a year full of change, so I'm used to it now. So any course changes that I'm willing to make, it's good for your.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, so finally, I'm going to introduce myself. That's okay. I'm one of 6. I am a 3rd child, which means that we're the clowns, right? And what we learn to do in life is to make sure that everybody knows how to sing and dance together. So that song and recreation leader is pretty much my background in that. I am I'm an import to this county as well. I grew up in the Finger Lakes area. My school district, where I went K through 12, incorporated the Seneca Army Depot. A third of my classmates came from the military, and they were constantly shifting and moving in and out. So I didn't know that the world didn't show up at everybody else's school district until I wasn't at Romulus anymore. I think that experience growing up has helped me. When I was 16, I spent a year in Mexico as an exchange student. You should never send a 16-year-old on an exchange. They should be older. I also grew up on a farm. Always, always, always. Didn't matter who did the job, but the job had to be done. So whether you were male or female, never played a part in my upbringing. I married a farmer from Aurora, New York. We operate a 1,000-cow dairy. We employ 25 people. We, like Barb, we have a multicultural, multi-generation group of folks who work with us every single day. So Jamaica and Mexico and places in and around Batavia. I have a great desire to see our community be successful in everything that we want to be and to continue to grow. Married for almost 40 years, have 2 children, 3 lovely grandboys, and I am really happy that you have joined us today. Thank you, and we will see you either Zoom or here for the presentation to be delivered by our sheriff. Thank you.